Hey, how's it going, everybody? So today I'm going to quickly go over Bloody Muscle Bodybuilder in Hell, or as it was known back in its day, the Japanese Evil Dead. It was initially produced in 1994, but for a myriad of reasons, it didn't receive any kind of official cut release until the early 2010s. I'm also going to include a link to an article by BloodyDisgusting.com that really lays out the whole history of this movie in detail. But speaking just from my own experience with this movie, I will say that the last 30 minutes or so does have some fun, if very lo-fi gore in it, and I like the overall look. It reminds me a little of the grainy, grungy quality that Takashi Miike utilized to really good effect in some of his earlier movies like Ichi the Killer, for example. And I don't know how much more I can really endorse in this movie and really keep a straight face. And I want to say from the start, it's not because I by any means hated this movie, but I was much more, I would say, amused by it than I was seriously enthralled or engrossed in any way. And call me a jerk if you want, but plainly and simply, that is because it was just way too amateurish for me to feel like I could take it seriously, even as a piece of fun kitsch. I understand from what I've read that this movie is a bit of a cult item, but watching it with that background in mind, I was sort of reminded of the dichotomy that defines modern horror audiences for me. They seem to be increasingly hard, even probably a bit too hard, on new horror films, and at the same time, they are way too easy and soft on any of the movies from the past because I think maybe they feel like they need to assert themselves as having a deeper intelligence and appreciation for some of the more obscure films that regular film fans or regular horror fans don't. And obviously, I understand that this movie was made on a very limited budget and was just put together with a lot of raw heart and nerve. And I respect the hell out of that. But keep in mind that this movie was produced in 1994, and Robert Rodriguez's big debut, El Mariachi, was released 2 or 3 years earlier. Like I think in 1992, it got wider distribution, but it was probably actually produced a year or two prior. Similarly to Fukazawa, Rodriguez was working with very limited means when he made that movie, but look at how much more that movie feels like a feature than this one does. And yes, you could argue that when a major studio picked up El Mariachi, they helped Rodriguez by remixing the sound and retouching the film and all that. But that doesn't change the fact that there had to be something there that was worth looking at in the first place in order for them to even be willing to take that step. If El Mariachi had looked and sounded more like Bloody Muscle Bodybuilder in Hell, I doubt it would have gotten picked up for wider distribution by a US studio. I know I'm probably coming off like a little bit of a jerk or an elitist right now, but you still can't get around the fact that with similar means at his disposal, Rodriguez created something that really looked and felt like a feature film. In fact, I would say Rodriguez's most underrated talent is his editing abilities, but that's a whole other story. And I'm sorry if I sound like I'm being unfair or a jerk here, but really, like, honestly, this is so amateurish to the point of like you get a scene where it's supposed to be an evil tentacle wrapping around someone's leg, and all you get literally is a freeze frame insert of that happening, of a picture that looks like it was sort of a composite of 2 or 3 pictures using some very primitive version of Photoshop, whatever you would have used back then, I'm not sure. But when you have that inserted in between live footage, it honestly just comes off very hackneyed. I mean, with production values like that, if this qualifies as a cult classic, then the Bruce Lee movie that I made with action figures and a VHS camera when I was 14 years old should qualify as a Bruceploitation cult classic. I think this movie would function well as just background imagery at a party or in a bar or something. Like just put it up on a TV screen or maybe use a digital projector and project it at a white wall or something. That would be even better, I think. And it would create a great fun atmosphere. It basically is sort of the horror fan equivalent of a coffee table book because you put it on and it's a lot of fun to sit there and take a quick peek at for a quick diversion and maybe have a conversation with someone about. Just in general, I think this is one of those pieces that is a lot more fun to talk about than it is to actually watch. In fact, as I understand from reading that bloodydisgusting.com article, there's actually an audio commentary track on the Blu-ray release by Joe Lynch and Adam Green. And with those two in the same room, I can guarantee you that their audio commentary track is worth whatever the price of the Blu-ray is. But the movie is not responsible for creating that commentary, so I don't think you can really give the film itself credit for that, unfortunately. I mean, whether you like it or not, it's only about an hour long, so you've got very little to lose. And again, ultimately, I never hated my time with this movie. I'm not saying don't see it. I'm just saying that if you do, go in with lowered expectations and you'll probably have an okay time with it. But don't expect the kind of mean, nasty, balls to the wall cult classic that all the storytelling behind the film and the poster art would have you believe. Well, that's all I've got for this one. I am going to try and record another entry here before the end of the day, so I'll leave you guys at that for now, and thanks for watching. I'll catch you again real soon.